Hello and welcome to the American Ultra Stock channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, as it is a Monday, we're going to be reviewing the players' weekends. Now, it's a bit of a change on the Stock Watch segment. We've noticed it's not doing too well, so we're going to try to mix things up and go on an order of relevance on top 5 moments, top 5 players, or things to attribute who raised their stock or brought it down. Straight to the point, Braden. The most relevant thing that happened this weekend, was it a stock up or down? Who was it?
Yeah, so like you said, with this new format, we can pick 5 stock ups, we could pick 5 stock downs. It could be a mix of the two. You're just gonna have to wait and find out. But for my number one most relevant player that I'm gonna pick here, it's gonna be Christian Pulisic, and this one is gonna be a stock down because I feel like in big games this year he hasn't really been too great. Obviously, it's been an incredible season for him, probably the best of his career. He's been a fan favorite at Milan, one of the signings of the season, but he has to have criticism where it's warranted. In big games, he's kind of disappeared. We saw that in Champions League. We've seen that in Europa League. Now they've been knocked out by Roma, an inferior team in Serie A, especially if you look at the table. And I think on paper as well, everything Milan should be going through there. Pulisic in both legs, I think, was very quiet, especially the second one here in Rome. That officially knocked them out this week on past Thursday. And there's some big games coming up as well. So we can see if he beats the allegations. As we put this out, the Milan derby is going to be happening. They play Inter Milan this Monday. So we'll see if he can have a good performance there. It's looking like he's going to be starting on the left wing, actually, instead of the right wing. Leao's probably going to be playing up top and Musa on the right wing. So it's going to be a bit interesting if that does happen to see if he can perform better in his prime position that he hasn't been playing all season. There's also a couple of big games coming up towards the end of the season as well against some big clubs. So we'll see if he can beat the allegations. But I think for now, just this season, he has kind of struggled against the big teams. So that's why I'm going to give him a stock down.
Yeah, it's always tough to pick Christian as a stock down because he's so loved by the fans and he's had the season that we wanted him to have. But ultimately, in the big games, he doesn't really have that marquee moment, which we all wanted. But and also the uncertainty over Pioli leaving during the summer. That's the guy that Pulisic has been really outspoken about liking him, and he placed a lot of trust in him. So, but let's hope for the best for next season, and definitely tune in to watch that game. My player that I'm going to pick right here for the most relevant of the week and gets a stock down. Again, I love this guy. I'm his biggest defender of all time. I'm the biggest Serginho fan. If Serge has no fans, it's because I died. I'm really the biggest fan for Serginho Dest, but he has the injury, which we don't really have that much detail. I would like for us to have something concrete. I don't know if it's the club just protecting themselves or I really don't know. There's not much out in the open, but the fact is he is injured at the moment. Some reports say that it's an ACL injury. Some say it's an ACL tear. If that's a tear, it's 6 to 9 months. He's done for Copa America. But I think they would have been, they probably doing a little bit more testing. These injuries can be very, very intriguing, and they need something definitive before putting it out there. But it has to be a stock down for us as well. If Serge doesn't play in Copa America, I feel like we lose a lot creatively to fit Greg's style as well. And some people might flame him defensively, but I think that he's been improving in every sense this season. On such a high of a season, he said that he's really happy about playing Copa America. I hope that he gets well in time, but it has to be a stock down for the USMNT in general if he's not there. Moving on to hopefully a better note, Braden, is it a stock up?
Just quickly, I'm going to add on to Serge a little bit. Not only could this be bad for the USMNT at Copa America, which it looks like he will be missing. He's confirmed out for the rest of the season. It's not too many games left for PSV. I mean, they've already clinched the title realistically. It shouldn't make a difference for them, but he's out for the season. He'll probably miss Copa America in the summer, which is a big loss for us, but this is catastrophic for his career. He finally got it back on track with a good move. We know he has a past history of making some bad career choices, going to Barcelona, sticking it out when he probably shouldn't have. Obviously, that loan to AC Milan as well. And now that he's injured this summer, if it is an ACL tear completely, he'll be out for a while, the full summer, heading into probably the first half of next season as well, at least. We've seen how long it has taken some players to come back from this injury, and it could mean that he stays at Barcelona over the summer because clubs are not going to want to take a risk for a player that has an ACL injury. It's one of the biggest ones, hardest to come back from. And honestly, for a player that has shown some defensive liabilities at the highest level as well, it's not going to be something that clubs want to risk splashing out on. I think PSV are probably the only hope if it is truly that bad of an injury. We're praying it's not, but if it is, they're probably the only hope of a club to buy him this summer. They could maybe get him done for a $10 million deal. That's been the price that's been agreed by both clubs, but that was before the injury. If he is out for a long time, who knows if he gets his move, and next season could be a wasted one at Barcelona for him. But moving on to a brighter note here, for my second pick, it's going to be Ethan Horvath, and it is going to be a stock up. Incredible performance from Horvath, 7 saves, including one truly incredible one. I have no idea how he kept the ball out. And a big win for Cardiff as well. It doesn't mean anything. They're cemented into mid-table, but it means something for their opponents. Huge 2-1 win over Southampton, who are fighting for promotion. As it stands, that win will probably put them into the playoffs instead of an automatic spot that had seemed kind of certain earlier in the year. And it's just an encouraging sign from Horvath. He keeps getting consistent minutes and consistent, solid performances week in, week out in the championship. I will stick with my agenda. I want him to start over Turner for Copa America. I know it's not going to happen. It's a huge risk to change goalkeepers at that big of a tournament, but Horvath seriously deserves a look. Turner hasn't been playing. Horvath has. It's kind of the reverse situation as it was a year or two ago. He deserves a chance for the USMNT.
Definitely. I agree with you, but yeah, I don't think it's going to happen, but hopefully it does. I think that I wonder, would Matt be doing as well as Horvath if he was in the championship? That's the thing that I put out there with the sample that we have of his playing time this year, which was catastrophic. Let's be honest. He went from bench at Arsenal. But anyways, moving on to my next pick, it's going to be also a guy from the championship, but he fared in the FA Cup. What a nice moment for him. I think it's a little heartbreaking. I always tend to root for the underdog. I think we all do, especially if they have an American who has a really cool chant right there from Coventry. But Haji, right, scoring that goal in the dying minutes to give some hope to Coventry fans and all the football fans alike. I mean, if you're not a Man United fan, you were rooting for Coventry in that game. And it's heartbreaking, really, to go out on the pens. But what a nice moment for him. I think it's a cherry on the top. I don't think they're really going to go for promotion. I don't think it's mathematically possible anymore. But he's had a great season over there, making the jump from Turkey. Nobody thought he was going to put himself and be so well liked by the American fans as well. He was clowned a little bit during the World Cup, but I think he's undeniably an option right now for the team. We saw the camp that he had with Nations League. And now to get a moment in that big of a stage, semifinals of the FA Cup, it has to be a stock up for him. The guy is getting used to big moments, so I'm really happy for Haji. Couldn't be happier for him, really. Now, moving on to the third pick for your week, Braden. Who is it?
I will just say 2 things quickly. First, it is actually mathematically possible for them to still make the playoffs, although I don't think it's likely to happen. And second, that's never offside. VAR has ruined the game. It should have been a game-winning assist for Haji in extra time, stoppage time to send Coventry to the final. The whole football world would have gone crazy, but VAR ruined that moment. One of the most historic moments in FA Cup history and one of the most historic moments in potentially USMNT history, at least at the club level. So shame on you, VAR. But moving on to my third pick, and it's going to be on a more negative note again, I'm going to pick Leonard Maloney. And I think this has gone really under the radar this weekend, mainly because of the Dest injury probably. But Maloney did actually get injured again just a couple games after coming back from another somewhat decent injury that had him miss the last camp in the Nations League, where we ended up winning the final again, as we always do. He missed that camp, and this injury is a dislocated shoulder. It's one of the most unpredictable injuries that you could have. We saw Weston earlier this season come back immediately from it. He seems to be superhuman, but you also see some players that it takes them a couple months to come back from a dislocated shoulder, and we don't know what's going to happen with Maloney, but this is a serious doubt for him that he's even going to play in the last couple of games for Heidenheim, which shouldn't matter, to be honest. They're cemented in the mid-table, but it puts him at serious risk of not making the Copa America squad. Even if he is healthy, I don't think Greg would want to rush him back in if he's just recovering from that injury. And if he is hurt, obviously he won't be with the team. He's on the fringe as it is. Couple other doubts. Luca Della Torre has been injured as well. Maybe he had a chance, but with this injury, it puts him at serious doubt. And with the emergence of some other players like Tanner Tessman and maybe even Aiden Morris, some younger guys coming in, obviously there's Johnny and Adams as well. This was really Maloney's chance to play at a big tournament for the USMNT. I'm not saying he doesn't have a chance in the future, but this was probably his best one, and it looks like it could be wasted.
Yeah, and it could be detrimental to our Olympics campaign if they have to call up one of those guys that I really think the biggest Tanner Tasman fan. We should be at the Olympics, not the Copa America. But yeah, I think that if Luca was healthy, this would be the best news for him, really, because he's a guy that also finds himself in the fringes. But yeah, I do wish Leonard a speedy recovery. I don't know if he ever had this injury before. As you mentioned previously, if you have dislocated a shoulder like Wes, it's easier to come back from. You have the muscle memory and everything adjusts better. But yeah, let's stay on the outlook for that. Now, my next pick right here is not really a player. It's a positive because I think that this goes under the radar a lot because American owners throughout Europe, let's say, that's the most relevant part. That's where the biggest soccer is played. They get criticized a lot, but they never get their dues when they do things right. I'm going to pick Venezia as a club. Niederrohr, he's a club president for Venezia. Saved the club, really. It's still with some struggle financially, but on the last game where they broke the record for the attendance at the Penzo, he was there with the ultras, waving the flag, watched the game with the ultras among the fans. How often do you see that from any president, let alone an American president? Next game right now, crucial game away, and he pays for the buses to go to the game against Lecco. He was again watching with the fans, shirtless, waving the shirt, and as just like a fan, a regular fan. You watched the Gillingham president, which took over for Gillingham back in October 22 and 2022. And again, watches games with the fans. That's something that you never see. Really well liked by a considerably smaller club, but saving these clubs from administration, that's really impressive. And I think that the Birmingham president as well, really outspoken, big personality. But these are presidents that have passion for their clubs. It's not just a commercial thing for them. Obviously, they want to make a profit, but they're saving clubs and also assimilating with the fan base, really being amongst them. And that's a scenario where it's really rare to find. People always like to trash on American owners, the Glazer family at Man United, for example. But these are guys that made their way to the top. We don't know how they have that much money, but they are, well, amongst the regular folk, just like me and you, saving clubs, supporting as a fan, and giving them the dignity of having a club where they know the owner cares about them. And I think that needs to be, the light needs to be shined upon a little bit more on those owners. Just a few examples. I know there are more, but those three I know that are very active with the fan base. So just wanted to pick them since it never gets talked about. Moving on to the next one, Braden, who is it?
Yeah, that's a really nice thing to mention. I don't think it gets mentioned enough, like you said, how some American owners really aren't that bad. We know, obviously, the main ones are not great for their clubs, but there are some that are good out there, and it's nice to give them the respect and credit that they deserve. But for my number 4th pick, it's going to be another stock up, thankfully, and it's going to be Griffin Yao, getting an assist and scoring a goal off a penalty this weekend in a thrilling 3-3 draw for Westerlo. And he has officially hit double-digit goal contributions now for the very first time in his career. 7 goals, 4 assists on the season, and really what has been his breakout. He wasn't deemed really too good enough for DC when he was there a couple of years ago. Granted, he was still a teenager, a very young player, but he was still trying to break through, and he couldn't seem to do it. Gambled on his career, bet on himself, moved to Westerlo. Didn't have too great of a season last year playing for the second team, but he continued to bet on himself, stayed at the club, and it's paid off hugely. He's one of their most important players, one of their best players in a pretty small team in the Belgian First Division, but his goal contributions this season, I think, have single-handedly kept them out of that relegation group and the weird into-the-season thing that the Belgian league does. They're in the middle group now, which means they're safe regardless, even though they seem to be dead last of that middle group. And it's a huge moment for him. Ahead of the Olympics, he seems to have played himself onto the roster despite only being in one U23 camp out of 3, the last one, and he was impressed in that one as well, outperforming Kevin Paredes, for example, who's been one of the marquee players for that group, playing in the Bundesliga week in, week out. Yao's outperforming him. So I think this is a huge moment for his career. The Olympics is going to be crucial for him, but for this season, it's been a huge success.
Absolutely. And let's just trace back when he got his first game that he actually played this season. I think it was back in November or December. They were second to bottom. And then he becomes such an integral player for them. I'm so happy they got safe. Yeah, Now it doesn't really matter. I think it's a bonus for them to be playing without having their to say fight for their lives. But props to Yao. Honestly, we've been high on him for such a long time. I hope that he has a great showing for the Olympics. Always nice to see guys hitting double digits on the goal contributions. Moving to a player that's also playing in that league. It's going to be Gaga Slonina. I know that it's weird to say when his club is probably going to get relegated, but I pick him as a stock up. And the reason for that is they had actually, when he was injured, they started their other goalkeeper, and he had some good matches, good numbers as well, a good amount of saves. But Gaga's lost right back in. Yes, they lost the game, but he had a good game. If you watch the highlights, he actually had some impressive showings there. And I think it's mathematically still possible for them to get into the position of fighting for that a one-off game where it's a crazy game. I love when leagues have that, where you have one team that's trying to get promoted, the other one that tries to stay up. I think I back them to do a little bit better and try to do that. That would be an insane achievement for Gaga. And I think it's a good sign that as soon as he's back from injury, he slots right back in and gets a good performance again. It was good with his distribution, which has been very lackluster at times. I think is the area where he needs to improve the most. And I'm happy for him. It's going to be a stock up because I feel like right now we were talking about Patrick Schulte, the Olympic goalkeeping spot's kind of in the open. Kind of tells everyone that, hey, he's back into the conversation. He has more hype. And you never know. If he does keep them up, that's a huge achievement, especially with the players he has around him. Now moving on to the last, but hopefully a good pick as well, Braden. Who is it?
Yeah, and you picked a non-player type thing with the owners earlier, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pick the U.S. Open Cup as a stock up, and this is a message to MLS and mainly Don Garber. Keep your teams in the Open Cup because it showed how great of a competition it can be. The last round this weekend, midweek, it was the round of 64, I believe. We had some really, really good matches, some crazy upsets as well. 4-4 draw with Charlotte Independence taking down Rhode Island FC in penalties after, like I said, a 4-4 draw. That's a USL League One team beating a USL Championship team. There was a 93rd minute winner for Detroit City against one of their local rivals. There was Oakland Roots relying on their youth, playing almost a completely youth team against the darlings of the competition, the Burrito Club, El Farolito, who somehow made it this far and barely beating them in extra time thanks to a goal from an 18-year-old. There's NYCFC, too, being the only MLS Next Pro team remaining after a game winner in extra time for Maximo Carrizo, the 16-year-old, and so many more as well. Penalty shootouts, extra time wins, crazy upsets. Open Cup has not disappointed this season, despite the lack of the MLS clubs. And speaking of them, this next round, it's in a couple of weeks, but it's going to be the round of 32. The 8 MLS clubs that will be taking place are going to be coming into the competition. We'll see if they can continue to defend their title, like Houston Dynamo, who won it last year, or maybe they'll get upset. Who knows? We've seen some crazy, unpredictable results already, and who knows, maybe some USL Championship or even lower clubs could stun the MLS sides. And there's still, like I said, one MLS Next Pro team left as well. So we'll be hoping that they do that league proud, showing some of the brightest young talents that we have to offer. But it's going to be a stock up for the Open Cup. I've been loving watching it so far. I encourage all of you, if you have a local club near you that's maybe in one of the lower divisions that's still in the Open Cup, whether it's USL Championship, League One, I don't know, I think there might even be a League 2 team left. Don't quote me on that, though. I think League One might be the lowest. But if there's a club near you that's still in it, go support them because they deserve it. Grassroots football at any level deserves support, and especially the ones that are actually taking place in our historic competition, unlike some of the MLS clubs.
Absolutely. I think that for all the pro-rel fantasy lovers right there like me who would like to see that, this is the chance. This is as close as you're going to get, and it should be the most hyped competition we have in this country for soccer. I think it's the most fun to watch. Moving on to my last pick is going to be Gianluca Buzio. Again, crucial goal. He did miss a chance earlier on, but a big moment, clutches it up because it was a very tough game. Venezia not making it easy for themselves once again, but coming back, showing a lot of character, and it's a nice one for Buzio. Officially hitting double digits as well. It's 10 goal contributions. That's always nice to see. And again, really nice moment. Crucial win, which sets up for a very, very intriguing and very decisive week for our Serie B. This brings us to our ones to watch, Braden. And now we go on to, again, the segment where we pick a mainstream player or a mainstream topic and one that does go under the radar to keep on our stock watch and watch for the week, suggesting for the viewers as well to keep an eye out on. Who are your picks, Braden?
You mentioned maybe a mainstream topic instead of a mainstream player, and I'm gonna kind of cheat and pick multiple mainstream players because this coming weekend, we have Juventus versus AC Milan, the American Derby edition 2 or 3 on the season, I can't remember. But we've got McKennie and Weah taking on Pulisic and Musa. Who knows how much roles those players are going to have. McKennie and Pulisic should start like always. Weah and Musa will probably be on the bench as usual. Weah did actually get a start in Juve's last game, but it was mainly a rotated side because they are still in Coppa Italia, and he didn't look bad, but he didn't look great either. It should be, as usual, 2 Americans starting, 2 Americans on the bench, but it's a huge game for bragging rights within the USMNT camp, and I encourage any fan that can to watch that game. That's probably the number 1 game to watch this weekend from a USMNT perspective. And then for my sleeper candidate, I mentioned him when I was talking about the Open Cup. I'm going to pick 16-year-old Maximo Carrizo. We mentioned him as well when we talked about the GA Cup, which was a couple of videos that you guys really loved. So thanks for all the love on that as well, the support. If you want to see more videos like that in the future, let us know in the comments. But he's been on a huge run of form since impressing at the GA Cup. I think he was one of the best players on the pitch in every game he played for the U17s. He's come up for NYCFC 2 and now scored 3 goals in 3 games, including 2 this week. Like I said, the extra time winner in the Open Cup to send NYCFC 2 through to the round of 32, and then as well a goal this past weekend in MLS Next Pro. He's got 4 on the season now, 3 in his last 3 games. And honestly, I think a first-team debut could be coming somewhat soon. Maybe not this season, but definitely at least next season for Maximo Carrizo, because NYCFC have kind of fallen off a little bit from their glory days a couple of years back, and I think they could really use a player like this.
Absolutely. It's always nice to keep an eye out on the youth prospects. And once again, thank you to all of you guys that watched the GA Cup video. It was really, really important for us. Moving on to my picks, I'm going to pick right here for my mainstream one. You pick guys that are solid, part of the rosters for the USMNT. I'm also going to pick one that has played himself into the roster, and it's a favorite for a lot of guys. It's Johnny Cardozo. Going on, again, trying to keep the hopes up of getting that 6th spot. It's they're just 3 points actually behind Real Sociedad, but it's a crucial moment of the season. They still have the chance mathematically. They came off a big win against Valencia. I think it's a nice game to watch since now they have somewhat closer to what their ideal starting 11 will be moving on to next season. East goes back from injury as well. Team looks a lot better with them, and it seems like they weathered the storm that they were going through a while back. For my main, not for my main pick, it's my main one of interest really, but it's the under the radar one. I'm going to mention Venezia, so since I mentioned it, maybe the president, Tesman, Buzio, everyone gets included there. It's a game against Cremonese, which is a direct competitor. I think this week is going to define if Venezia go up through the automatically or they're going to have to fight it through the playoffs, because I am predicting right now that Gioacchini's Como, even though Gioacchini never does anything there, is going to be playing against Sampdoria, who are fighting for their lives, led by Pirlo, to keep their hopes of playing at the playoffs at home, at Sampdoria's home. I think that Como's going to lose, and if they lose and Venezia win, it's all in Venezia's hands in very favorable games that are left in the season. So this one's definitely one I'm keeping an eye out. If Venezia don't win this game, I'm just calling it out. It's going to have to be through the playoffs, and you never know. But thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you. Let us know in the comments below if you like this new format. It's a little bit more free-flowing. Some of you guys have mentioned you would like to see that. Let us know in the comments below if you should keep it or just go back, revert to the simple old way we had. If you guys enjoyed that as well, we're also open to any criticism. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, share with your friends, and comment something down below. We'll see you next time.